What we do here is go back.
Welcome back to Fair It's Gone, episode 4, another week, another dollar, Major League Baseball. Weird week this week, really weird week when it comes, especially looking at the starting lineup. We got some very familiar names and some not so familiar names, MLB The Show, Be Our God kind of names. We started up behind the plate, real familiar name, best catcher in baseball, JT Realmuto, batted .412, 7 hits this week. Catcher position didn't really show out offensively this week. First base, CJ Cron. Name that brings you back a few years, hit 500 with 3 ding-dongs this week. At second base, a guy well known for his defense, but not so much for his offense. Cold Wong batted .524 with 3 home runs. MVP candidate, third base, Jose Ramirez went off .375, 5 extra base hits. Fernando Tatis back healthy. He's going to be our shortstop this week, batting .409 with 5 home runs. Had an insane week. In the outfield, Corey Dickerson batted .412 with 3 extra base hits, including 6 walks. Jesse Winker, someone we're going to touch on a little bit here later, batted .400 with 5 home runs. And then Byron Bucks just rounding us out here in the outfield, batting .450 with 4 extra base hits. DH, we're actually going back to Yerman Mercedes here, batting .533 with 8 hits. And on the bump, you know him, you love him, Jacob deGrom. Complete game shut piece, including himself driving in a run. But this week went 1-1 somehow with a .6 ERA, only allowed 5 hits, only allowed 1 earned run. He struck out 24 batters and only walked 1. I guess we'll touch on deGrom a little bit more later as well. But some of these other guys, Cron, Wong, Dickerson, guys that, I guess these teams need this kind of production out of to really be successful, and they got it from him this week.
Yep. No. Couple big weeks for some guys. Throwback names like you mentioned, Cron and Wong, kind of guys we don't think of as offensive producers. Cron kind of stepping in the wake of Nolan Arenado leaving as a big right-handed bat in Colorado. He's played pretty well. Colton Wong, Brewers needed him to step up with Christian Yelich being out. Don't know when he's going to be back, but he had a great week. I got a question. Are you on the J-Ram train now? Have you drank the Kool-Aid? I know you're drinking the Kool-Aid. Are you finally willing to come around on J-Ram?
No, he's a solid player. What
does the man have to do for you? He got robbed of an MVP last year.
Probably get out of Cleveland. I'm going to be honest with you. He's probably going to have to get out of Cleveland. Really. Something about a Cleveland uniform really just doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is. Just really doesn't do it to me. But Fernando Tatis Jr. had a hell of a week.
Oh my goodness. Did you watch some of that Dodgers series?
I did. He also had the best tweet of the week.
I never watched. It was the Sunday night game. I think the Padres were down 7-2, 7-1 at one point. Yeah, they were down 7-1 going into the 7th. 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, and then 1 in extras. Heck of a game. Tatis went yard again. Ridiculous. Did you see the when Bauer was pitching and he kind of looked away for a little bit and then took him yard?
I did see that. Did you see his tweet?
Yes.
Did you see his tweet? Look, man, Trevor Bauer can go suck himself. Gonna be honest. No, I like Fernando then. I like him even more now. Nah, it's what we've come to expect from Tatis at this point. He's so good. The series was insane. We got October baseball for 3 straight games there, going into extra innings multiple times. It was exactly what I think we expected out of these two teams and what we kind of expect here on going forward. And I honestly think, and this may be hot, I'm not sure, but this may be a wake-up call to some Dodgers fans here that maybe the Padres are here and they're ready to kind of take the reins here. Because as much as the Dodgers do look good on paper, they're not getting the kind of production that they've wanted out of certain guys right now, and the Padres obviously are getting the same level of production that they expected out of some of the guys last year that a lot, including myself, didn't expect much out of. And it's showing. It's showing right now. Blake Snell looks like a dude. Musgrove looks like a dude. You got Fernando Tatis Jr. I think Manny Machado has found that kind of swag he's been searching for the last few years in this team, and he's playing really confident. He's playing really well. I don't know, man. San Diego is really moving my needle, unlike they did last year, and I may be coming around to them. And if I was a Dodgers fan, I would not exactly be relaxed about the whole situation.
I mean, we talked about. I was huge on the Padres coming into this year. I think I even said that I think quite over the course of the whole season, but they can hang with the Dodgers. They've got the top. The biggest thing, they don't have the depth that the Dodgers do, but they have the top level talent. And when you get into a short 3-game series like this, we saw it this weekend. Padres showed up. The Dodgers, to an extent, didn't. But that series has been an absolute blast. I think it's beat everybody's expectations so far. There's some crazy stat towards the end of the game Sunday. He had played like 64 innings against each other all year, and 58 of them or something like that. The game has been within 2 runs, which is just nuts. Every game's been close. They were saying even one of the early games, I think the Dodgers won by 5, but it went to extras, and they poured a bunch on in extras. So even their games that don't look close end up being nail biters. And this is the type of stuff Tatis, with his just being an enigma and somebody who non-baseball fan. I mean, did you see Patrick Mahomes was tweeting about Tatis?
Yes, I did.
That's the kind of stuff that baseball needs. That type of swagger, that type of fun, that type of, hey, people that aren't diehard baseball fans want to tune into this because it's exciting. I get it. Even as a baseball guy growing up, sitting down and watching a 9-inning game a lot of the times isn't always that fun. I can't always get through them, even when the Yankees are playing. But I couldn't keep my eyes off the TV this weekend when the Dodgers and Padres are playing, and something like that's exactly what baseball needs.
Wait. You're trying to tell me that bitching and moaning with your agent on Twitter about everything Major League Baseball does isn't the way to grow the game? Hold on a second.
Who does that sound like?
You're mistaking, Mr. Bauer and Mrs. Luba. You are mistaking that bitching on Twitter isn't how you grow the game of baseball. I didn't know that one. Yeah, exciting. Let's roll into offense of the week. A team that I don't expect to be here a lot, but hey, I tipped the cap. Usually what happens when you play against the Braves and their up and down pitching staff. The Arizona Diamondbacks in 6 games this week was second in the league in scoring. It scored 35 runs, tied for 5th in batting average, but hit 269 as a team. It was first in OPS at 832. That's kind of led behind a Carson Kelly, David Peralta led squad here, and they're getting a little bit more production out of some of those other guys that they've also needed to, such as Ketel Marte. Just a really good week for him. I tipped the cap. This includes, I want to actually, speaking of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and this is not offense related, but I do want to have this discussion. What are we doing about 7-inning no-hitters? Here, like between you and me. Like, what are we doing here about 7-inning no-hitters? I want to know your take. I want to know where you're at. Because I've seen a lot of them from a lot of different people. I'm not exactly sure which way I feel about it, but I could be swayed either way. So
I am really in the same boat right now in that I see both sides of the argument. The one thing I think they need is some consistency. While I do get that, like, okay, 7-inning no-hitter in a doubleheader, the new doubleheaders where they're only playing 7-inning games, yada, yada. Okay. Game was scheduled for 7 innings. You pitched 7 innings. You pitched the full game. Sure. But currently, if a game gets rained out and called final after 7 innings, even though it was supposed to be a 9-inning game, if it gets called final after 7, he'd have done that in a rain-shortened game, it would not have counted either. And I think there the only difference is the fact that one game is scheduled for 7 and one game is scheduled for 9. But really, honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like it's got to be the same on both. If one of them is going to be a no-hitter, the other one has to. If one of them is not going to be a no-hitter, the other one can't be. Maybe you can talk me into the doubleheader one being a no-hitter and the other one not, just because it is scheduled for 7 games. I feel like at the end of the day, 7 innings, 7 innings, 9 innings is 9 innings, and I feel like you got to make it uniform with both of those scenarios.
Yep, that's a completely fair take, and just to play kind of, I hate playing devil's advocate, but to play devil's advocate here and give the opposite side, I will be our honorary step-in Gabe Simmons here. is that it is an official game on Major League Baseball. It is an official game. 7 innings did occur. It was scheduled that way, and all other records would count in that game. So hypothetically, if someone were to hit 4 nukes, that would go down as tied for the most, home runs in the game. If things like that, I realize that no-hitter is more of a completion thing, not a you did X, Y, and Z thing. It's way more of a completion thing, and those obviously there's a lot of no-hitters lost between 8 and 9. We're talking about Mad Bum throwing 7 shut piece or 7 no-hit pieces against the Braves here in a second game of a doubleheader, in which the Arizona Diamondbacks gave up 1 hit in 14 innings. Tip my cap there. But I think Madison Bumgarner really did put it the best way. Like, did you see his interview?
Did not.
Like, he was just like nonchalant about it. He was like, "Yeah, whatever. I threw 7 no-hit innings. Like that's great. I think we should absolutely honor it as a no-hitter, but it should not go down to the record books if it's meant like that. We should celebrate it as a no-hitter, but." Putting it in the record books, I'm going to pause and wait there. He didn't complete those last 2, but by all means, Chris Rose should not be tweeting, "I don't know how to feel about this. We should celebrate it as a no-hitter." Thank goodness Chris Rose is out of baseball, because that means he's had some tweets that just make no sense to me recently. But as Jeff Passan said, I think we should celebrate it as a no-hitter, just not in the record books.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think almost like how we caveat no-hitters as we kind of have a separate category for combined no-hitters.
Right.
We don't just call everything a no-hitter. We have no-hitters themselves refer to one pitcher throwing 9 or more innings and finishing the game without allowing a hit. Then we have a separate category for combined no-hitters. We don't just call them all no-hitters. We caveat the combined no-hitters because it doesn't refer to a no-hitter in our traditional sense. And I think I would be okay with kind of almost creating a new category in the record books, just like kind of how we have combined no-hitters. 7 inning or shortened no-hitters. I would be totally fine with that. Kind of create a separate rule like, hey, they still finished the game, rain shortened or scheduled for 7 during the doubleheader. Doesn't matter. They finished that game. That game became final. They pitched every inning and did not allow a hit, a no-hitter, but caveated. I don't think it should go in the same light as full 9-inning no-hitters. But I'm all for, if we want to do something like we do with combined no-hitters, I'm all for that. I think they should count and we should celebrate them, but just not in the same way as a traditional no-hitter.
I'm with that. I can jump on that boat. I'm 100% on that boat. But to the flip side of Arizona's this week, they did have a great week offensively, and that's just tacked on to the Mad Bum no-hit piece, as well as, I don't even know who pitched in Game 1 that spun a 1-hitter against the Braves in Game 1. And you guys all got to remember that these 6 games played, 2 of them were 7-inning shortened games. There was 4 innings still left on the table.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
So yeah, there was actually 4.
Second run scored even more impressive.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. So there's 4 run scoring opportunities there left on the table for them. So they had a great week offensively. But on the flip side, staff of the week, we're back in New York. No surprise there. 1.99 ERA, second in the league. A .85 WHIP, third in the league. Fourth in Ks with 68, and then third in batting average against at 174. A Jacob deGrom led staff that was expected here. Yeah, I mean, they were good.
But guess what? Once again, the Mets are pitching their behinds off, and all I can do is laugh because Grom gave up 1 run this week and still managed to lose. The Mets still managed to lose him a game. And despite having the second best ERA in baseball the last 7 days, third best WHIP, fourth best Ks, third best batting average against. I know 7 days versus now we're talking last 10 games, but you would think they'd probably be at least 6-4 in their last 10, right? Be better, 7-3, 8-2, somewhere in that range.
You'd think.
They are 3-7 in their last 10.
Yeah, and I do want to stick on the Mets because we don't do but so many team highlights here, and this is kind of when we get to talk about it. The Mets are not. We're kind of a team before this season that we discussed that maybe. I don't know. We were questioning. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I know you were big on him. I was questioning him a little bit more, and just one tweet that I saw earlier that's a little bit concerning, especially towards the Mets offense here, is Francisco Lindor's barrel percentage since 2018, right? So what percentile he's in? He was in the 71st percentile in 2018, so very good for a shortstop. Usually not in that percentile. 2019 he was 47th. 2020 he was 32nd, and this year he is 6th in percentile. So the offensive production from Lindor, whatever production is happening now or lack of production, it's going to stay there just based on the peripherals here. He's not looking too good at the plate. Pete Alonso obviously is still kind of lacking that MVP form we saw from him 2 years ago. Their offense is not a scary offense. They are negative 13 in run differential right now, which is, I really did not expect that from that team. With them pitching that well, it's not like they're getting dogged at the plate or on the mound, right? If they were a terrible pitching staff and just couldn't keep up hitting wise, right? We've seen it happen with other teams, sure, but they are a negative 13 run differential right now. They're sitting at 9-10, 3-7 of the last 10, lost 2 in a row. They've only scored 57 runs and they've only allowed 70 in 19 games.
Is the least amount of runs scored in baseball by 17.
Yeah, that's scary.
Our second lowest runs scored in baseball. They have 74 runs scored. Yeah. Reds, who haven't pitched all that well, but have the most runs scored in baseball, have over double. But the fifth place Rockies have almost twice as many runs scored as the Mets do. I'll be the first to say I was big on the Mets going into this year. Now, I did mention, I think I made the comment on one of our preview pods, that I thought over the course of this season, the Mets could finish with a better ERA than the Dodgers, pitching staff-wise. And I think that was pretty spot on. Right now, they've given up 18 less runs. Their pitching staff has been incredible. They have given up the least amount of runs in baseball. They have also scored the least amount of runs in baseball by a decent margin. The offense is putrid, and I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Let's say this is, you could take this with a grain of salt, I guess. You can take it whatever way you want. Just look at these numbers. Brandon Nimmo has outperformed himself this year by a lot. He's been their best hitter on the team. Pete Alonso has an 833 OPS with 5 home runs, so he's not performing bad. But Michael Conforto is hitting 219. Lindor is hitting 203 with 2 extra base hits on the year. J.D. Davis is hitting extremely well. Dominic Smith is batting 203 with 19 strikeouts and only 2 walks on the year. James McCann's batting 231. Jeff McNeil's batting 204. Kevin Pillar's batting 120. Albert Demore's batting 143. What scares me here is that Jacob deGrom has driven in 1 less run than Francisco Lindor and only 2 less than Michael Conforto in about a fifth of the plate appearances. So Jacob deGrom has been statistically one of the Mets' best hitters this year. Just for the sole fact he's batting 462 with a 1,000 OPS in 13 at-bats. deGrom is. Meanwhile, their offense has been literally putrid. So, yeah, the Mets are going to have to figure it out. But, hey, I give it a tip off to Marcus Stroman and crowd. Tip off to them. But the Mets they're struggling.
Makes me feel better about the Yankees, that's for sure.
For real.
They were struggling offensively, my God.
But again, DeGrom-led staff, this is what we expected from them. This is what they hyped themselves up to be. This is what they should be. They're performing to expectations.
Yeah, I don't think my Lindor MVP pick is turning out very well.
That one hasn't been too hot for you so far. Going into hitter spotlight, titled it Familiar Faces here. And if you're a casual baseball fan, this first one might not be familiar. But for guys who have really watched the game over the last year, this one will be. Jesse Winkler batted .377 with a 1123 OPS, 6 home runs, as well as a total of 12 extra base hits. I believe it was 5 doubles, 1 triple. He can hit the cover off the baseball. It's that flat and simple. He can hit the absolute cover out of the baseball. Defense is a liability. Yeah, sure. I mean, give me a break. It's called hitter spotlight, not fielding spotlight. He can flat out rake the cover out the baseball. He's shown that over the last 2 to 3 seasons. An elite hitter at the plate at this point, I think we can deem his as. And really, Cincinnati, between him and Castellanos, been their offense. Maybe a little bit of Jonathan India mixed in there, but he's really been helping Cincinnati carry the freight.
Yeah, what's been really surprising me about Cincinnati is, I guess we'll touch on that in a little bit when we get to him. actually. So I'll leave that for later.
Mm-hmm.
Winker's been great. Continued well last year. Not much of a defender, but man, when you get two guys that have the offensive upside and the streakiness of him and Castellanos, and they're both on at the same time. Whew, luck, especially their splits too, with Winker being a lefty and Castellanos being a righty, kind of like Brian Rizzo reminds me a little bit.
Yeah, when they were good.
But we're about to talk about one.
Well, let's just talk about him now. Chris Bryant has shown that bounce back form that we've been talking about him for a while, hitting 300 this year with a 993 OPS, 6 home runs, 13 extra base hits. Exactly what we've been expecting from Chris Bryant since his 2016 MVP days, and the one that we've talked about for so long. He just seems to be putting the barrel on the ball a lot more this season. And for this season, I have to say, that is very, very important. This April has been the lowest scoring, lowest offensive period for baseball in literally decades. This first April it's been really bad. So anyone who's putting the barrel on the ball, tip your cap. But Chris Bryant is, I wouldn't say playing at an MVP form, but very close to it right now. And for as bad as the Cubs offense has been this season, he has been the strong point, which I feel like is the complete opposite about what we've been saying in the past few seasons.
No, good to see him bounce back. I think this is probably the best we've seen him, at least so far to start the year, since 2016. And he's a guy who's supremely talented. Baseball, can't say it about too many people, but baseball is just more fun when he's crushing them. And it is good to see him back right in the middle of that Cubs lineup for sure. Cubs fans are happy to see it.
Yeah, when I touch on that April, lowest batting average in April since 1968 with a 232 over the league. The lowest OPS since 1992 with a 699 and a 24.6 strikeout rate, highest all time since April. We can touch on a little bit of that later, maybe if we get around to it. But just wanted to put that out there when I discuss one of the worst Aprils we've had in a long time here, just for some context for everyone listening. But third but not last, familiar faces. Bryce Harper, batting .321 with a 1063 OPS, 6 home runs, 11 extra base hits, and 16 walks. Really a guy I haven't heard much from this season, which for Bryce Harper is kind of familiar, but I guess when you sign a 13-year deal in Philadelphia, I don't expect to see you in the national media nearly as much as I used to. But really, a guy putting up MVP caliber numbers again for a Philly team that I think offense is really struggling. Rhys Hoskins has picked it up here in the last week or so, but it's really been Harper against the world. I say they've only scored 87 runs this season. They're at a negative 17 run differential, but he's been playing well. So tip my cap to Bryce Harper, another familiar face here that I think is really good and does a lot of things on the baseball field that a lot of people don't recognize, such as plate discipline, walks, knowing what to do when. But he's kind of gotten lost in the mix of Philly and kind of in the NL East and not being on what is considered a World Series contending team, but a guy who still needs that national spotlight and that I think can really help push baseball to the next level.
Yeah, I've kind of been through cycles with Harper. At first, I liked him. He was a phenom. Then I thought he was kind of a dick and too full of himself. And then he kind of rounded out, but I thought he was overrated, and he had a couple bad years and a couple injuries. Dude can flat out hit, plays decent defense. His plate discipline is off the charts. He's a very professional hitter. I almost feel bad for him at this point. I mean, he's put together a very solid career with some very high peaks. His 2015 MVP season, one of the best offensive seasons we've seen in the last 20 years. And he just can't seem to find himself in the right spot, I think. I think his first few years, he probably didn't contribute as much to winning as his slash line indicated. And Jumpstown for Philly, which I can't blame him. They gave him a massive offer with the promise of spending more to win. They haven't really followed through on that. And then the Nats win the World Series the year he leaves. And Philly's not really competitive now, and definitely not World Series competitive. And he's continuing to hit. I kind of feel bad at this point.
That's
just kind of drawing it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Some things haven't broke the right way for Harper over the past few years. I think part of it is maybe a little bit of karma. Did you know that sucks? I think his time in Washington was about spent with their fan base. I think they kind of got tired of his antics a little bit, and obviously it kind of worked out for Washington the next year when they won the World Series. Man's got paid in Philly, and I think Philly. They're doing him wrong. You say you got to break out the paycheck, and then you take forever to re-sign JT. And then obviously you haven't broken out the paycheck. You paid a few pennies for Didi Gregorius. Other than that, the trade for JT, Reese has been their own product. Zach Wheeler, I mean, however much that one really wants to move the needle for you. Everyone's up and down with that one. Doesn't move it for me. But yeah, Harper's ripped the cover off the ball this year and he deserves to get that little nod. Next one, fantasy droppables. These are guys you might want to look at if they're on your fantasy team of dropping, because they're really bad. And the first one you might want to drop from your own team over there, Mr. Jordan.
I was just gonna say, I don't know that Eugenio Suarez is droppable yet.
No, he's droppable. I think I'm first in the waiver order. He's droppable.
I'm holding on to him a little bit too long, but
he's droppable. Trust me, I can pick him up. I'll take him off your hands.
Okay. But what I was gonna get to earlier, what's surprised me most about how good the Reds have been offensively, is how bad Suarez has been. I mean, with their lineup makeup, you would think that if the Reds are going to be good offensively, even decent, that Suarez would be a huge piece of it. And the fact that he has been so bad and they're still leading the league in runs scored is testament to guys like Jesse Winker, who have just hit the cover off the ball. But I think best thing to sum up Suarez's season right now, he's in the middle of a 2 for 40 slump with 43% strikeout rate.
Yeah, he struck out 38 times during his 83 season at-bats. He's only batting 125.
That's really good.
Look, I know he's swing or miss, but you can't be this swing and miss.
Jacob DeGrom, you could give Jacob DeGrom 83 PAs and he'd have a better slash line than that.
He's borderline better than Gleyber Torres right now, Jacob DeGrom is. Sorry.
All right, we did not need to drag him into this.
You're right. Let's stay in New York though. Aaron Hicks batting 147 with 22 Ks. A guy I think the Yankees needed. Not needed. I don't know. Is he still batting in the 3-hole for y'all, or have y'all given that one up?
I'm scared to look. I really hope not.
Why? Hey, the part Aaron Hicks was ever in Aaron Bones' 3-hole is a little egregious. But on top of that, he's played really bad this season. A guy that was supposed to be a pretty versatile middle of the order piece, maybe like a 6-7 hitter, maybe not middle of the order, but kind of back in, but had all the potential to be really good. Just hasn't put it together. Yankees are really missing out. Yankees offense is scuffling in general, and Hicks is not helping the cause.
We have finally moved Hicks out of the 3-hole. He's now hitting 6th.
Oh, see. All right, cool. That's where he should have started.
You easily could have just thrown Clint Frazier's name in there too. Gleyber's picked it up a little bit. He's at least hitting over 200.
Baby steps here. Baby steps. Let's fly out back to Chicago for this last one. Ian Happ batting 135. He only has one extra base hit this year, and he struck out 30 times. 30 times. He struck out 30 times. Ian Happ, a guy who had a really big season last year. I think all the Cubs fans finally thought, the hailed prospect has finally done it. He's up in the major leagues for good. He's gonna be an all-star here soon. Versatile center fielder, second base, corner infield option. Power from both sides, switch hit piece, and he's kind of back to the Ian Happ that we've all seen for the last couple years here. Really scuffling to play. All three of these guys have all a ton of power potential that I wouldn't be surprised in a week that they hit 500 with 5 nukes. So, don't be surprised. I'm not counting these guys out at all. But throughout April, they have been the epitome of bad.
Yeah, Hap's one that kind of puzzles me. I mean, even he's still young, but his first 2 seasons, age 22 and 23, in good sample sizes. OPS plus of 113 and 102. And in the last 2 years, he played less games the last 2 years combined than either of his first 2 seasons because they had him up and down, injuries, and then shortened year last year. But he OPS plus 129 and 134. So it showed a lot of promise at the plate the last 2 seasons, albeit in a small sample size. Obviously, he's better than what he's putting up right now. But I have a hard time gauging if he's streaky and ran into a couple hot streaks the last 2 years, so his numbers look good, or if he's really just kind of a league average hitter whose best value is going to be defensive versatility with a little bit of pop.
Yes. That's what I got for you on that. Yes, that's what he is. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the bump here. What are walks? These are three guys who've dominated, and the things that stuck out to me were their walk numbers. Jacob deGrom, 2-2 this year, by the way. He has 2 losses with a .51 ERA. Jacob deGrom has 2 losses. We have already touched on it, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. .51 ERA with 59 Ks and only 4 walks. Yeah, that's ridiculous, to say the least.
Can we now?
I think my Jacob deGrom Cy Young pick's pretty safe.
Better than my award pick for another Mets supposed superstar.
Yeah, I think
by a long.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty safe for us. That one's very safe. But I think we've read deGrom enough so far. So let's just go on to the second guy who we haven't talked about this year. Surprisingly enough, choo-choo all aboard the Garrett Cole train. 3-1 this year, 1.71 ERA, 50 Ks, only 3 walks from Cole. The only Yankee saving grace right now is Garrett Cole. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Other than another player who will not be named on this podcast, he's pitched pretty well this year. I'm sure we can all figure out who that one is. But Garrett Cole has pitched unbelievable this year. For the amount he's getting paid, it's exactly what we were expected. It's not Jacob deGrom level, which is insane, because if you would have given me that stat line from any other guy in any other season, I would just assumed he's the best pitcher in the league, when right now he's not. But only three walks from Garrett Cole is really good. Really, really good.
Well, that's the craziest thing to me is, guys like deGrom and Cole are going to rack up the strikeout numbers, but the lack of walks, they're doing one of two things. They're either throwing balls in the zone that are so disgusting that people are not being able to put the bat on the ball, or they are really what it may be, because I really haven't watched either of them pitch too much this year. It either speaks to how nasty their stuff is in the zone, or they are tunneling so well that even when it's out of the zone, guys can't lay off of it. The strikeout to walk ratio for both of those guys is insane. I don't ever remember seeing something like that.
Pitching in Major League Baseball has never been better than right now. Like, I will go to my grave with that one. Ever.
It speaks to the offensive numbers that we're seeing right now.
Yes. Speaks to the offensive philosophies that we're seeing right now. That, hey man, I hope you hit one and it better get out of the yard.
Everything's kind of led up to this kind of culmination. I feel like, more guys, we're seeing the value of putting the ball in the strike zone, not necessarily trying to get guys to chase. Walks are not good because your on base percentage on the walk is 1,000. Throwing the ball in the strike zone, pitch tunneling, spin rate. Kind of like Bauer, I'm sure other guys are doing it too, just kind of engineering pitches, playing with stuff until you can really get a feel for everything. And then the 3 outcome hitting philosophy: launch angle, kind of swinging for the fences, no more small ball, no more slap contact hitters. We don't have anybody even close to a hitter like Tony Gwynn now in baseball. Even some of our pure hitters like a Trout, he still strikes out a lot, way more than a guy like Tony Gwynn ever did. And the offensive philosophies and the pitching philosophies have kind of just both been creeping towards the same spot, and now we've finally, I think, gotten close to it.
We have reached a point in Major League Baseball where pitching is so hard to hit. There's a reason there is no one like Tony Gwynn anymore. If you were to go up there and just try to make contact and slap a ball around, you will strike out 3 times. No one's floating you pitches into the zone anymore. 93 miles per hour fastballs are not effective. Like, the only one that's effective is Shane Bieber, and that's because his breaking stuff is the nastiest stuff on the human planet right now. So both of those things meaning each other. That guys are like, hey, I can't touch this, so if I do touch it, I better swing hard and swing up and get it out of the park. And pitchers, on the meanwhile, are just getting better because that's just the natural progression of pitching, is how hard can I throw this baseball? How much can I make it move? And hitters have responded with, if you're going to throw hard, I'm just going to swing hard, and we'll pray that something magical happens. So anyone that's like, what happened to old baseball? Yeah, single, bunt him over, sac fly. It's because making contact three times in a row like that is probably the hardest it's ever been in the history of Major League Baseball.
Very good point.
Ever. And on the point about walking, Corbin Burns, 2-2 with a 1.53 ERA, 49 Ks in 0 walks. Corbin Burns has not walked someone this year. Again, unheard of. What are walks? Corbin Burns, a guy that I think we touched on in our first pod, and then we also touched on in the preseason pod talking about how he needed to continue on what he did last year into what he is doing this year, and boy, is he doing that.
What's craziest to me about Corbin is, the knock on him, why he kind of like Glasnow, always had the elite stuff. The question was never the stuff. For some guys, the question isn't control. Are they ever going to get enough velo break to really be effective with the lower velocity? With a guy like Corbin Burns, the stuff was always there. It was a matter of command. And I mean, his walks per nine the last couple of years were not terrible, but not great. 0.7 in 2019, 3.6 per nine walks per nine in 2020. No means elite numbers. The fact that he has gone out, I can't even comprehend not walking a single batter in 30 innings with 49 strikeouts.
Here, let me just rattle off some numbers for you here. These are just some splits, some real quick splits. After a 3-0 count this year, he's had 2 3-0 counts. He struck out both batters. After 3-1 counts this year, he struck out both batters. After where is it at? 2-0 counts, he has not allowed a hit. After 2-1 counts, he's had 17 2-1 counts. He struck them out 9 times. So in the 13 at bats that he has reached 3 balls, he struck the guys out 8 times. So when he is behind, he's still filthy, and that's the thing. He's a guy that I don't think is worried about throwing layover pitches. He's going to come straight at you with some dead heat and say, hit it, big boy. And if you can't get out of the box, strike out. Like, that's just insanely impressive that he's not only coming back from 3-0s, giving up doubles, giving up moonshots, giving up easy singles. He's coming back and he's saying, hit the ball, and they can't do it. They just flat out can't do it.
You know, it's a small aside. You know, it's even crazier to me. Insane as Burns' stat line looks this year. In 29 innings, his ERA plus is 2.66. Zach Britton in 2016, in 67 innings, his ERA plus was 803.
Yeah. And they left him in the bullpen, by the way.
I know. It just continues to blow my mind how good his 2016 was. But anyway.
Very good. On the flip side of the bump here, were our expectations too high for these 3 guys? We're going to start in D.C. Patrick Corbin, 4 games started. He's only gone 16 innings this year with a 10.470 already. He's allowed 23 hits. Now, this is the culmination of everything we just talked about, and here's the difference. I realize velocity isn't everything, but the 3 guys we just talked about throw the ball extremely hard, and if they don't throw their fastballs extremely hard, they throw something else extremely hard. Patrick Corbin throws absolutely nothing hard, like 0. Not a single one of his pitches is hard. He barely breaks 90. He's a crafty lefty, which in today's game we're seeing less and less of, and there's a reason for that. And I think Patrick Corbin's kind of showing us. I'm not saying he can't bounce back and figure it out. He's obviously done it before. He was a big part of that 2019 Nationals team. But right now, he is struggling beyond means.
That's a good point about, I didn't even really make that connection that all 3 of those guys we talked about who are really, I think, unquestioned the 3 best pitchers in baseball, at least right now, with Shane Bieber mixed in there, throw very hard. DeGrom's slider is about 4 miles per hour faster than Patrick Corbin's fastball. I'll leave it at that for Patrick Corbin.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're having to catch up to sit on 99 on the black and then adjust to 94 with break, with the kind of break that DeGrom gets on his slider, and then with Corbin, you're sitting on 90 and reacting to a 78-mile-an-hour slider. It just, as much as we talk about you can still be a good pitcher without velo sure does make it a hell of a lot easier.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, to say the least. Moving on, number 2, Kenta Maeda. 5 games started, only gone 23 and a third. Has a 6.56 ERA. He's allowed 36 hits. Is this the Maeda we really expected? Is this the one that we knew was coming? Because he wasn't that great in a Dodgers uniform. He was nowhere near Cy Young in a Dodgers uniform. He has last year where he's a freak for, 10, 15 games. And we're kind of back. I would say this Maeda is closer to the one that was in a Dodgers uniform than the one we saw last year. Again, I wasn't the biggest Kenta Maeda fan in LA. I'm not going to look up his numbers. Just this is strictly from the top of my head here. But he's definitely not having the Cy Young, the second place Cy Young season he had last year.
It was basically a league average in LA, ERA plus of 115, 98, and then 102 2 years in a row.
He was a reliever half the time, was he not? Or was that?
Yeah. He only didn't start 2018.
2018 that I'm thinking of.
2018, he came out of the pen for about half of his games.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
that's
fair. Everything else. Hey, rough for Kenta. I think he's somewhere in the middle. Obviously, he's better. Fairly consistent in LA. I mean, ERA 3.48, 4.22, 3.81, 4.04. I think last year was a flash in the pan. I would expect him around the 3.75 to 4 range. I think is probably a good spot for him. I think he'll get better. He's got decent stuff. But I don't expect a sub 3.5 ERA from him.
Yep, I agree.
Sure.
In the last one, Lucas Giolito, 5 games started, 25 in a third innings pitched to 5.68 and 22 hits allowed. Only 22 hits, or only, I'll put that in quotes. He's getting roughed up. He's getting a little bit overpowered right now. A guy we had a lot of expectations for this year, including Cy Young expectations from me over here. I expected Giolito to be really good this year. I have no qualms that he'll bounce back. Right now, Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon are kind of carrying the White Sox rotation, but Giolito needs to bounce back if the White Sox truly want a deep playoff implications.
I think Rodon and Giolito have basically flipped expectations this year.
Yes.
We expect Giolito to... Giolito pitching like Rodon has pitched would have surprised me less than him pitching like this, and the same other way around. Rodon pitching like Giolito has been, it surprised me less than how he's pitching right now.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Just expect both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, I expect Rodon to pitch. I kind of forgot he was still a factor. Been hurt so often.
Yep, 100%. 100%. Let's go over to the standings. Let's go to wrap us up here for all player discussion. Let's go over to standings. In the AL East, Boston is currently 3 games up on Tampa. Boston is 16-9. Tampa 13-12. Toronto 11-12. New York 11-13, and Baltimore 10-14. Boston's played well. Let's call a spade a spade. Boston's played well. The Yankees have not. Toronto has not. Tampa has not. Baltimore has actually been playing above, I think, what we all expected from Baltimore. Again, too early in the season, I think, to really lay down the line here or anything, but Boston's played well, which is tip my cap, I guess. And if the Yankees offense needs to figure something out, because Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Hicks, Clint Frazier, anyone not named Aaron Judge and Giancarlo have mightily struggled.
Again, you're telling me one thing. Boston is 8-1 on the road this year, which is pretty impressive. Part of the reason that they've been so good to start.
Yeah, New York's also only 2-6 versus teams above 500. Boston 7-4. That'll do it. That will do it. Moving over to the Central, Kansas City with the best record in baseball at 15-8 is 2.5 games up on the White Sox. White Sox are 12-10. Cleveland 11-12. Minnesota 8-15. Detroit 8-16. The big one here is Kansas City being so good. Only a 6-run differential, so they will come back to earth a little bit here, but they have played really well. Minnesota's a scary one because they've allowed 108 runs. I think that's kind of what we expected from the pitching staff, but the offense obviously has not overpowered themselves into what I think we expected them to. They're also 5-12 against teams above 500, so they're struggling against teams that are kind of the upper echelon of baseball.
Yep. No. Bottom line, I mean, we talked a little bit about how Kansas City could be decent because of the veterans they had, but not have expected them to be leading the Central this late into April.
No, Danny Duffy being the league leader in ERA right now and qualified ERA right now was not one I was on my bingo card. Going to the AL West here, Oakland is up on Seattle by a game and a half. Oakland is 15-10, Seattle 13-11, Houston 12-11, LA 11-11, and Texas is 10-14. The only team with a positive run differential is the Houston Astros by plus 23. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say this entire division is out of whack. Considering Oakland is -4, Seattle's -1, Angels are -17, and the Texas Rangers are -18. The Angels can't pitch, by the way. They've allowed 124 runs this season. They literally can't pitch.
I mean, did we expect anything different?
No.
Pitching staff is
disappointed, but not surprised.
Who are their best? I mean, as much as we like Ohtani, he's not going to pitch every fifth day.
Yeah, Dylan Bundy.
He's not 8 innings. They need. Quintana's not pitched well. He needs. Bundy has not been what he was last season, to no one's surprise. Pitching staff sucks. Houston's clearly the best team in this division, I think, but obviously small sample. Oakland's turnaround has been kind of fun to watch. I think, what were they up to, 8 in a row at one point?
Yep. I also want to point out Houston is 12-6 versus teams above 500, so some of their losses have been a little fluky. Some of their losses have been a little fluky. Let's go over to the National League. Let's go to National League East. On top, after being 4th last week, the Atlanta Braves at 12-12. Philadelphia at second at 11-12. New York Mets 9-10. Miami 11-13. Washington 9-12. This division is completely up for grabs. I think Miami's playing a little under with a plus 12 run differential. Atlanta's plus 4. Philadelphia's -17. New York -13. And Washington -22. I think those will kind of even out here, or at least even out how the divisions go. And the Braves are looking a little better here recently. 6-4 in the last 10. They've won 3 in a row. Beat the Cubs tonight, 10-0, kind of crushed them. Philadelphia and Mets, well, this division's up to grabs. It's a complete coin flip right now. Gonna be honest. Not a good coin flip because they're all playing really well. Complete coin flip because all of them have one glaring issue, whether it be the Braves pitching, Philadelphia's inconsistencies on offense, New York's hitting. Miami actually looks kind of decent. And then Washington's lack of offense. They all have one glaring issue.
No, Marlins have the best run differential in the East. They're actually the only ones with positive run differential. Division in baseball, the other 5 all have at least 2 teams over 500. The NL East has none.
Yep. Which is quite. I'm telling you, one glaring issue. Whichever
NL East so far this year, pretty low.
Whichever team figures out their issue first is going to take the division by its nuts. It's about that simple. Just grab them by their nuts and get after it. Moving over to the Central here, Milwaukee's in first place, game and a half above St. Louis. Milwaukee's 14-10, St. Louis 12-11, Pittsburgh 12-12, big time out of Pittsburgh. Cincinnati 11-13, and Chicago is last at 10-14. Again, a division that's completely up for grabs, as the Central has been over the last about decade and a half. Milwaukee, obviously behind Burns, is playing really well, but they cannot score runs. Milwaukee's only scored 98 runs this year, which is really low. St. Louis looks pretty good. Pittsburgh's playing way above where they should be, but good for them. They have the lowest ERA in baseball or one of the lowest ERAs in baseball, I believe, since like April 13th. They only have a .97 bullpen ERA, by the way. .97 bullpen ERA. So they're shoving it out of the pen, so good for Pittsburgh. Cincinnati, despite scoring 128 runs, has allowed 122. And Chicago's only scored 99, so they're struggling offensively.
I mean, it's as tight as we thought it was going to be. Everyone's within 3.5 games. The biggest thing to me is expected win-loss just based on run differential. Everyone has more than a 7 run differential, and no one has worse than a -9 run differential. I mean, even when you look at underlying numbers, they're still neck and neck. thing I want to point out, St. Louis has only played one series this year against a team above 500, yet are still 12-11. It doesn't bode well for them.
No, it does not look well. It does not look well at all. Capping it out here in the East. West. I thought you said West. The NL West. Los Angeles Dodgers are 16-9, but they're 3-7 over the last 10. It's the Dodgers. I'm just going to stop there. Right behind them, the San Francisco Giants are 15-9, Arizona 12-11, San Diego 13-12, and Colorado 9-14. This division has been surprisingly competitive this year. As we kind of thought the Dodgers and San Diego were going to run with it, San Francisco has been really good. It is a Buster Posey comeback season. That dude has been unbelievable this season. They're getting really good. I mean, we talked about this team at the beginning of the year, and I was very high on the San Francisco Giants just because of guys like Alex Wood, Johnny Cueto, Anthony Desclafani, veterans like Posey, Bell. You got guys like Soliano who really came on last season. You had a couple young guys that are going to come up. And they're 7-3 in their last 10. They scored 97 runs and only allowed 77. They're 3-3 against teams above 500. They're 9-3 at home. San Francisco's playing really well, and they're not a team that I said they're a team at the beginning of the year. I said don't take lightly, and they are showing why I said it. So at least I got that one right.
Extremely impressed with San Francisco. That was another team, kind of like Kansas City. We talked about they've got veteran guys, they've got pieces. They're probably not going to contend for a playoff spot over the full course of the season. They're going to be hard to beat. They're going to be good. And Mets fans, this is what your team could look like if you could at least hit the ball at a league average level. I mean, the Giants haven't even broke 100 runs yet. They've only scored 97, but they have the second least amount of runs allowed in baseball, and only the Mets at 77, yet have scored 40 more runs than the Mets. I mean, if the Mets had a league average offense, they'd be sitting at 15-9, 16-10, somewhere in that range, and up 6 games in the division, but they're incompetent.
Yep, 100%. That's going to wrap us up here for standings. Again, to wrap it, just kind of going into our back couple segments here. Shohei Ohtani update. Dude stayed on fire hitting. He's batting .287 with a .970 OPS, 7 home runs, 18 RBIs. On the bump, he has 3 games started, 13 and 2/3 innings pitched, 3.29 ERA, and 23 Ks. Quick tidbit, he's the first player to lead the league in home runs and start on the mound since Babe Ruth, some odd 100 years ago. So that's impressive. I'm full in on the Kool-Aid. I said that last week. I'm the Kool-Aid man. At this point, I am Kool-Aid Suave. I don't know how you want to put it. But I've drank of it. I've drank all the fruit punch. Derek Bell's be called me. I'm like the Hawaiian Punch man, surfing down the Hawaiian Punch wave on the front of the thing on a cold, crisp afternoon after you get out of the pool when you're a kid, and all you want is some Hawaii Shohei Punch. That would be a good name for a drink, Shohei Punch. Shut up. That would be a good name for a drink, and you can't even give me crap for that Shohei Punch.
It's catchy.
If someone comes up with that, I copyright it now. Give me my money.
We got the receipts too. Otani's awesome. I just, knock on wood, hope that he can stay healthy, because just little tidbits like first to lead the league in home runs and start a game on the mound since Babe Ruth. I mean, can't make that stuff up.
No, you cannot.
Supremely talented. It's so much fun to watch.
Yep. And to wrap us up here, obviously, our 3-star segment, where we go over 3 stars that may have not gotten the love this week that they deserved, that they really deserved. I'm going to start off in Texas. Nick Solak batted .400 this week with 3 ding-dongs. Had a really good week. Utility guy for them, but I just had a really good week. Tip the cap. I ain't got much to say.
Gave me crap for picking him in fantasy, too.
Oh, my God. Shut up. No one wants Nick Solak.
No. This is an Arizona Diamondbacks podcast this week, because really my first star, David, went out to the desert. 2 home runs this week, including a 7 RBI day at the beginning of the week. A big part of why, despite having 2 7-inning games and 1 game less than most of the league, they were second in runs scored. Great week for David Peralta.
Absolutely. Go to my second star. I'm going to go Christian Javier. Had 2 starts for the Astros this week. 2-0 with a 0.0 ERA, 12 innings pitched, 15 Ks. 2 really good starts for a team that I think is going to shoot up this division based on run differential, kind of how they played, how they're looking right now. A team that should shoot up the West and take a pretty handily good lead on that division.
Oh, good week for him. Again, Arizona Diamondbacks podcast. We are sticking out in the West. You mentioned earlier, I just missed our catcher list for team of the week. Carson Kelly, 3 dongs this week, 7 RBIs, did not strike out. That's the most impressive part to me. I think we talked about strikeout numbers of DeGrom, Cole, Burns. In this day and age of strikeouts, the fact that he played pretty much a full week and did not strike out is extremely impressive.
BR legend Carson Kelly. Get it right, son.
There is BR God.
Carson Kelly. If you know, you know.
Did not mean to disrespect the GOAT.
If you know, you know, man.
My third star, I actually had him on my week 1 third star, Cedric Mullins. We're going back to Baltimore. He's having a heck of a season this year. This week he batted .435, 10 hits, 4 extra base hits. Hey, I mean, if he wants to do it, he wants to do it. We were talking about who was going to be the starting center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles, whether it was going to be him, Hayes, it could be a whole lot of guys, and he's obviously locked up this position, took with it, ran with it, and is performing really well, so my third star has to be Cedric Mullins.
No, great week. One of the bright spots for the Orioles. Cap it off, my third star, Trevor Rogers. 2 starts this week, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 8 Ks, and then gets Milwaukee on, Wednesday? On Monday. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned, no walks, 7 Ks. 2 solid starts for Trevor Rogers in the last week.
Absolutely, I believe NL Rookie of the Year leader right now, Trevor Rogers.
He looks real good.
Actually, him and Javier basically at the same stat line. I think Rogers just threw 1 more inning.
Yep.
Crazy. Things be like that sometimes. Final thoughts.
Give me more Dodgers and Padres, whatever it takes. Pay-per-view. Doesn't matter. Give me 162, and then a DS, a CS, and a World Series of just Dodgers Padres.
No. No, Husker, it went deep tonight.
Actually, I do. One more thing.
I
Since you want to keep throwing the Yankees in here, also like the Cardinals, the Atlanta Braves have also only played 3 teams above 500.
It's what happens when your entire division is at 500.
That does tend to do that.
That tends to do that when the entire division is
The Mets have actually only played two games against teams above 500.
The entire division's only probably played 4.
The Marlins have played 16.
That's because they just play whoever's in the division lead. They're like, hey, look, the Nationals have the lead. Go play them this week. Have fun. Like, Miami's like, fuck me, I guess.
I don't know if that takes into account, like, okay, is that record against teams that were 500 when they played or record against teams that are 500 right now?
I assume that's when they played.
I would like to assume that's when they played.
I have no idea, but either way. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Husker, went deep tonight. There was a quote from Brian Snicker that said that he was whiffing on soft toss to begin the season, and he took Alec Mills deep tonight. So big shout out there.
Rough day to be Alec Mills. It's a rough day to be Alec Mills.
Yeah, it's a rough day to be Kyle Hendricks throwing 87, and then you bring in Alex Mills who throws 89, and don't expect the Atlanta Braves to do something. Not exactly sure what David Ross was. That situation isn't working out. I'm sorry. That David Ross managerial, buddy Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo thing is really not working out at all. By the way,
I feel like you can't go from being a player on the team to being a manager on the team with the same core of players. I just don't, as much of a respected veteran as David Ross was, I just don't think it works. You don't have the same dynamic. That would be like if Buster Posey in a couple years retired and became the Giants manager. I just don't think it would hold the same weight.
I think it's even worse than that because the Cubs are still young and up and coming. Posey would just be like a placeholder until the prospects got there, and he would have never played with the prospects. This was like a contending
That's
team.
True.
This would be like I can't even there's no other situation where this could have happened. I really can't think of one off the top of my head.
Justin Turner maybe retiring and becoming the Dodgers manager. I don't know.
Like Adrian Gonzalez becoming the Dodgers manager. Something like that.
Something like that. I feel like it doesn't work when you played with the same core of guys that you're going to manage.
No. There has to be like a generational gap there, right? Like go start in AAA, go be like a player developmental coach. Be like Nick Markakis trying to coach the Braves.
You gotta have some kind of gap, but you can't pull a White Sox and hire Tony La Russa to manage your high energy young ego team.
Yeah, that one's just not working out at all. I wish I felt bad.
Both of the Chicago managers just canceled for this week.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't. I'm trying to. I'm physically trying to wrap my head around why in God's name they hired David Ross and thought that was a good idea.
He's a clubhouse guy.
Big clubhouse guy, man. Big ego. Yeah, screw metrics. Big clubhouse guy. That's it. Like, could you really imagine, like hypothetically, right? Could you imagine? I don't know. I there's no other situation for this. It would be like Brett Gardner going and trying to coach the Yankees right now.
Yeah, I can see why the Cubs hired David Ross. I would be all for Brett Gardner as manager of the Yankees, despite everything that I did.
Yeah, until you're playing that crap and Brett Gardner tries to tell Aaron Judge literally
I
anything.
know I just trashed that idea completely, but I would be all for Brett Gardner.
I mean, I'd all be for Nick Markakis being the Braves manager. I think it'd be fun for just the meme show, but it'd be a terrible idea. It'd be an absolutely horrendous idea. Like, my God.
Although, as much fun as that would be, I can't imagine. I mean, could you imagine Gardner gets tossed from a game and just takes someone's bat off the rack in the dugout and starts just yeeting it against the roof of the dugout?
Brett Gardner would be fined so much money for Major League Baseball, it wouldn't even be funny. At that point, it would become Brett Gardner could pay off the entire Yankees payroll based on how much he'd get fined. We'd have to start GoFundMe pages for a Major League Baseball coach. Like, it wouldn't go well at all. But yeah, that's it. No more final thoughts. We've gotten to Brett Gardner being the Yankees manager. We have run out of things. We are not talking about anything else before this spirals into oblivion somehow. So that's gonna wrap us up here. We will catch you guys next week.